Assalamu alaikum, you're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rehman right live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about the FATF compliance issue. What exactly Pakistan has done so far. As we all remember, it's been almost 15-16 months since Pakistan has been put into this grey list, where India is trying its level best to put Pakistan into the grey list, but whereas Pakistan has gained a lot of support from countries like Malaysia, China, Turkey for that matter, so it won't be possible that Pakistan would be pushed into that a black list where North Korea and Iran already are. But what do we need to do? What are those points where we really need to emphasize? The areas where we have achieved our targets, those areas which are still our weakness. For that matter, where you have complied fully and where you haven't been able to satisfy the other authorities of FATF for that matter. Now, as we all know that on the 13th of this month, Ahmad Azhar is going to travel to France, and after that he's going to USA to also attend the meetings with the IMF and the World Bank. But prior to that, it is going to be decided in a short span of time that where do we stand at the moment. Our case seems to be pretty strong, the way Pakistan has fought it, the way Pakistan has done so far during the last 16 months almost, or maybe a little more than that. But primarily during the last 6 months, I think a lot has been done, a lot of targets have been achieved. But let's see, either we are cleared or we will be retained in this grey list, and then for the next 6 months, what sort of challenges Pakistan will be facing. To talk about this in detail, let me first introduce you to our panelists, and after that we'll also show you a couple of very interesting data and the areas to ponder upon. We have with us in our studio Zahid Gishkori Saab. Zahid Saab needs no introduction, is a senior journalist from a very known private group also. Thank you very much, Zahid Saab, for taking out your time and being a part of our show. We also have with us Dr. Manzoor Ahmed Saab, former ambassador to World Trade Organization. Thank you very much, sir, for taking out your time. We'll be also talking to Amr Bilal Sufi, who is an international law expert, so we'll be taking him on the telephone line. But before that, let me just tell you a few interesting facts which you will also be seeing on your screen. It says automated screening software has been deployed by many financial institutions to screen the prescribed persons, and the regulated entities now also have access to the Go AML system of the State Bank of Pakistan Financial Monitoring Unit for online filing of STRs. In the second card, you will see that it is regarding the SCCP. It says the SCCP has successfully made transition from one size fits to all a risk-based approach to implement a consolidated AML and CFT regulatory framework in its regulated financial sector comprising of stock and commodity brokers, NBFCs, Mudarbas and insurers, and Tawakkul operators as well. Now, the third slide also tells us that National ML/TF risk management has been undertaken in 2019 to assess ML/TF vulnerabilities that are inherent within the financial sector, including banking, NBFCs, brokers, and insurance. In the fourth slide, it tells us that the SCCP has conducted 167 inspections, focusing on AML and CFT, whereas AML is anti-money laundering, and the other one is terror financing regarding that, anti-money laundering and combating financial terrorism. So it says that compliance in this case is of 72 security brokers, 29 non-banking financial companies, 13 insurance companies, and 55 high-risk non-profit organizations. Now, this is the data. Now, first of all, let's start off from you, Zahid Saab. Obviously, I know that you're keeping a very close eye on this particular story. Obviously, this is a very important story about the Asia Pacific group, or you talk about the meetings which were earlier in Australia or in France for that matter, and the FATF, Financial Action Task Force. India being a permanent member obviously had its own influence and trying the level best to push Pakistan towards the blacklist. But on the other hand, we have friends, we have support, they're trying to manage the situation as well. But so when it comes down to the requirements of a FATF and the sort of compliance from our side, where would you rate Pakistan, sir? Our vulnerabilities, let's talk about those also, and the areas of strength for that matter.
Thank you very much, Faisal. This is a very, very important topic, and you are taking it up on the right time, because from Sunday onward, it's very important meeting. You know, it's a Paris meetup of FATF where Pakistan fate would be decided. And it has been 18 months now, Pakistan has been struggling to get rid of this dilemma which has been taken up by FATF and Pakistan hostile neighbor India has been pushing it up and even has been leaking the data of internal meetings even to its own media to blame Pakistan and flashing into mainstream that what Pakistan was not doing that. But in the last 18 months, Pakistan gradually not only achieve, I think, significant, very, very important success stories in different shapes. I can count that one by one, and I'm sure that you would give me the enough time,
please go ahead,
at
sir,
least to tell the world from this forum what exactly
this
Pakistan
is what the purpose of the show is. Yes,
has been doing for that. Pakistan has formed 215 joint committees of 17 different institutions, particularly NECTA, FPR, Security Exchange Commission of Pakistan, Financial Monitoring Unit, State Bank of Pakistan, and there is a long list which is working on this very, very important topic being supported by all intelligence agencies. And for this success story, Pakistan has generated 71 requests to 14 different countries where Pakistan got information through its intelligence agencies that these countries were allegedly supporting a terrorist and different organizations, banned outfits from their land. I can count it, and I have access to different information. Pakistan provided FATF as a journalist, where Pakistan case is being taken up. So on basis of these information, I can share with you that where does Pakistan stand when it comes to seeking international cooperation to get rid of completely such sort of things that concerning to financial action task force and terror financing. Pakistan generated 42 requests, MLA, mutual legal assistance requests to Afghanistan to take data because Pakistan considered that TTP, Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, Jamaatul Ahrar, HUA, Daesh, Al-Qaeda, Amrit Islamia, TTS, BLA, BRA, etc. These were being supported from the soil of Afghanistan. So Pakistan has not received any response from Kabul. And this is something very, very important. I can tell you
when was this
authority.
issued? I mean, how long it has taken?
In last 16 months.
They haven't done anything so far.
Not so far. Not only Afghanistan, but also I can tell you that Pakistan got information that TTP and JUA, Jamaatul Ahrar, even being funded from United States here in Pakistan to different elements. And then important thing is Pakistan also wrote to Malaysia for SSP, TTP, 2 requests have been sent. To also wrote to Switzerland, Oman, Germany, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, UK. Pakistan generated 4 requests to UK about KKF, Khidmat-e-Khalq Foundation. You know, it's a Mutahida Qawmi Movement organization. Pakistan banned it recently. Yeah. And SSP, and then to Qatar as well, Bahrain, Kuwait, and other countries. So around 71 requests Pakistan sent to these countries, but Pakistan has yet to listen to them, but has yet to receive their responses on all these things.
Now, what's the primary reason? Why aren't they actually sending any sort of, you know,
Pakistan
they could have said yes or they could have said no. I mean, why to delay this?
This is the problem. This is a very much problem. You know that USA, UK, Germany, and all these countries were, including Switzerland, India, of course, were putting pressure on Pakistan that Pakistan is not doing enough to get rid of this dilemma. But these countries were not supporting, according to the information gathered by Pakistani
this
agency.
is pretty important. I'll come back to you, Kishkori, to further get some info about it. But sir, now moving on. For example, since you have been there as an ambassador also in WTO, when you have an issue as a third world country, and interestingly, when the Prime Minister spoke in UNGA, if you remember, sir, he did talk about Kashmir and about Islamophobia, and the first point was about the climate change. But remember, the second was about this terror financing and money laundering. And he really emphasized for about 4 or 5 minutes on this particular issue, that this is how it is done and this is how we all suffer at the end of the day. Don't you think, sir, countries like USA, UK, Switzerland, I mean, Switzerland is again, and all those safe havens also, for that matter, where you have these registered companies which can just, you know, which can give you, or which can actually absorb any amount you can give them by any means, and they can just give you enough profit on that, and then they are your buyers also, these offshore companies for that matter. If you're not getting anything in return, or if you're not even getting any support from the foreign countries, sir, well, then what's the way forward? I mean, how do you manage such a situation?
Kishkori Saab and yourself, you've done very well to explain what Pakistan has done. I fully agree with that. Let me give a bigger perspective. You know, there are 190 countries, something like that. And according to them, almost half are not fully compliant, about 90. So they say that only in 33 countries there were convictions. And they are, out of these 190 odd countries, they identified something like 80 countries. They told them, look, you have to reform. Otherwise, you know, whatever gray list this is, so you have to reform. And 43 have reformed. So the focus is becoming, a fewer countries, because many countries have taken these warnings seriously. Unfortunately, we are taking it now seriously. But for years we have been trying, we didn't take it that seriously. That we are doing now. So we have to, because now the latest report that's coming up, in the next 2-3 days, they say that we are only compliant with, fully compliant with 1 out of 40. But they do say that largely we are compliant with 9 others. So 10 out of 40. That's makes 25%. But we say that there are 26 others where we are, not really compliant that much, and four are completely non-compliant. Now, if you look at that recommendation, there are many things which we can easily do. They say, for example, in Pakistan Post, there's no supervision, or there's no coordination, or things, little things, which we can very easily do. And we can, I think that 40 points that they have, at least we could, get all these stakeholders together and identify them, give them some, 2 months, 3 months, you have to do this, this, this. So, in somewhere I think we have been rather lax. I mean, some small things which we could have easily done. But I think overall, they're not satisfied with our looking at the scale of any money laundering, which we, ourselves say there's huge quantity from Pakistan. And then the rest of the world feels that terror financing, a lot of it. They say that your convictions are very low. The money that you have seized is very low. So those things we have to, prove a little bit on the ground that we have actually done much more. And also, I think we're there, since because of the lack of, coordination, maybe a lot of data doesn't come up. There are lots of things confiscated by customs, there are a lot of other things done, but the debt, we have
so
our
what
data.
You're saying that synergy seems to be missing, basically.
That's it.
That is what the key is, actually.
Yeah.
Now, Kishkori Saab, since Ambassador Saab talked about 4 areas where we did not comply, then there were 26 others where you were partially. Then you have 9 and 1. Let's talk about those 4 where you did not, and if not, why not?
Actually, when Pakistan started National Action Plan and the very sensitive point of reforms pertaining to madrasa, there is an impression that These are the hub creating problem of terror financing like that, or money laundering, or our Federal Investigation Agency is not capable to handle such issues. All is not well, it's true, but the effort Pakistan made in past 1.5 years, at least there should be somebody who should plead Pakistan, who should tell them, because Pakistan is not a part of permanent members, and there should be, and there would be no Pakistani over there right now in Paris meetup. Yes, they would be observing, but they are not part of the core meeting. Their case has already been put up before them. They discussed it in Bangkok, you know well. On this base, they are going to take up this case. Pakistan touched it, more than 600 cases were filed. The kingpins of terrorism, which at least UN Security Council thinks that they are most wanted people in their list. Pakistan filed cases against them. They all are now put in jail, now being tried under anti-terrorism laws. I can count their names even. This is the first one is Hafiz Saeed Ahmed. It's facing case under investigation. Haji Muhammad Ashraf Mansha, he is also. Muhammad Yahya Aziz, Malik Zafar Iqbal Shehbaz, Hafiz Abdul Salam Butawi, and there is a long list. And even Pakistan filed case against Mullah Mansoor, who was killed in American drone strikes in Balochistan. And other one is Khairullah as well. So Pakistan filed case against him as well, and the TTP, Al-Qaeda, and Daesh. Pakistan created.
I mean, so this is primarily what I'm getting to understand is that this is primarily not only regarding the numbers and the digits. It has a lot of political influence and the political, I would say, footprint within itself also.
Yes, you are right. It's exactly the case is, and Pakistan tried it. Its institutions, and they hold more than 57 meetings, marathon meetings, at State Bank of Pakistan, in Islamabad, in FBR, in SCCP, at FMU office, State Bank of Pakistan, at FIA office, Intelligence Bureau office. Pakistan struggled to do that, and then counterterrorism department of provinces also did this.
Now, Kishkori Sahab, another important area before we move on to Ambassador Sahab, that is about, okay, fine, you have identified the problem, okay, this is the problem, now you are generating solutions, you're coming up with alternate plans, and then you see, fine, this is the best one, pick it up, put it on, doesn't work, you need to have a backup plan, try that out, it works, good enough. Now you have understood the magnitude of the problem and primarily what exactly is going to happen. In this case, we were very reactive, sorry to say, but we should have been proactive. Secondly, when we saw the storm coming, we were not preparing. And we didn't even prepare even when the storm was there, unfortunately. Now, what do we need to do on emergency basis, on ASAP basis, that's what you call it. And in order to get out of this grey list, I mean, the time is almost over, but what's the probability? Or do you think another 6 months would be given and Pakistan is going to sort of show some more positive, concrete measures which they've taken? Or how will it proceed then?
I think so far, I already told you that I went through the report and Pakistan progress it made so far that Pakistan not only pleaded this case here at national level but through institution, but also at diplomatic as well. So far I know that Foreign Minister also took up this case at least 4 to 5 friendly countries. And it's all about all things were happening in US or with Saudi Arabia or even with China. So I hope that at least Pakistan is not going to joining blacklist. It's confirmed. So for my not only intuition but also the information suggests. But there is a possibility that they might put Pakistan at least for 4 months, or maybe giving a new, broader plan to slowly and gradually just to get rid of all these things.
I mean, they would also, for example, they'll go through those 40 points. They'll also tell you, guide you what to do, what not to do, and then you have to have your own plan, and then you need to implement that, right, sir? Yeah. Do they actually tell you the ways to do it, or you have to do it on your own? Or do they actually identify the weaker areas that, listen, this is where you need to work on, and this is going to be the major bone of contention between us, say after 6 months. You need to work on this, and on this. Is it the way they normally work?
Pakistan still, I'm sure that they are also doing, but Pakistan needs to do more on 3 fronts. Number one, Pakistan not only filled all 35% vacant post of Federal Investigation Agency, the premier body which handles such things not only at bordering areas with Iran and Afghanistan, but also at all the airports, number one. And secondly, the system of FPR, intelligence, must be revamped, and Pakistan should come up with a new framework and to keep a check on 73 banned organizations Pakistan put power on them, should not only taken up again with like a fresh start of crackdown against them, but also important thing is Pakistan put 8,300 suspect on its Schedule 4 list, you know, which are somehow threat to state security, and they also closed their 4,000 accounts.
These are the people under the microscope, basically.
And we need to put and at least show them. There were 4 organizations pointed out by FATF time and again. The lost concept I'm telling you, which were Lashkar-e-Tayyiba, number 1. Secondly, FIF, Falah
Institute, Insani Foundation, yeah.
Foundation, Jamaat-ud-Dawa, and Pakistan seriously started crackdown against them, and this visible loudly on the ground that Pakistan
Haqqani network was also one of them.
Yes, Al-Qaeda and Daesh as well. Yes. 151, their properties were confiscated. Its estimated cost is in billions of rupees. And their all schools, mosques, and madrasas were also taken into government administrative control. So their top leadership and second-tier leadership is also in jail right now. So it means that there is something on the ground, but Pakistan needs to show and convince them, yes, they are taking some practical measures.
All right.
And it's a time-taking process. They, you know that it could not happen in months. Pakistan needs
that is exactly,
effort.
exactly. Now, sir, will is there for sure, and we have openly declared it on the floor of the UNGA, sir, when the Prime Minister spoke about it in detail at length, and he really meant business. But so now there is another very big problem. That's not about the will, that's about the capacity. Every institution has its own capacity, and every institution is basically determined not by the kind of assets they have or primarily the kind of infrastructure or machinery they have, but by the kind of workforce they have. Over here, sir, still a lot of people live in the old school of thought, unfortunately. You talk about technology. I mean, looking at the transactions in the first world countries, a normal person from a third world country practically would just won't believe it, because now the phone applications, the barcodes, that's the future way. I mean, forget about the credit card or the debit card. I'm sure that is going to be history soon. But sir, we are still living in the 19th century where we are dealing with cash. You give money, you take money, and even now you go to any high-end stores, they prefer to take cash, and they said, if you give us cash, we'll give you a discount, because that particular transaction will not be monitored. I mean, it's a simple rule. You go and purchase anything regarding furnishing your house, for that matter. They'll say, sir, well, you know, we'll give you these many receipts for. This is the general culture, unfortunately. This is how it is. though the FPR, or for that matter, other financial institutions, they are trying their level best to keep an eye on that. Still, you know how many people have been added. So when it comes down to this, sir, obviously these people are much smarter. This is white collar crime in one way or the other. Money abroad, how the transactions are done, how to use these offshore companies, how to use the bankers and all. I mean, it's a very interesting game. Even how to have the foreign influence to foreign aid agencies for that matter. So this is how it works. Under those circumstances, a country like Pakistan, sir, how will we perform? How will we satisfy them?
You're very right. I mean, we have to be more technology savvy, and we have to take a few steps. One is that, we should make it easier access to these computers and mobile phone. It should be facilitated, this technology. But we make it very difficult. One of the highest taxes in the world on a smartphone is in Pakistan. And similarly, on computers, the whole world is a part of that information technology agreement. That means that you don't charge any custom duties. Pakistan still doesn't want to charge, wants to charge duties because it still thinks that this telephone and computers are luxury items. So we have to get rid of that from our minds, and we have to. You're right, and we have to move in the. See here, Faisal, you asked, do they point out, and how do we know? You see, in all those, if you read that report, I skimmed through it. 40 points. Everywhere they say what you have done well, and where you're lacking. Even the summary.
They have identified your weaknesses.
They have identified.
Okay.
You've done this well. And maybe Gishkori gave you far more details. It's not that much details. But they say you have done this, but you need to do this. So everywhere they have identified that. That is one thing. And even they say, okay, you have convicted, I don't know, they said something like 40 or so, 49 convictions. They say you had in Punjab, last year. And they say, in other 3 provinces, you only had 9 convictions. How is it possible that in KP, Sindh, Balochistan, there is no money laundering and there's no terror financing? They say it's not true. I mean,
maybe the capacity in those areas of the same institution doesn't exist. Sir, if you allow me, sir, we've been joined in by Ever Bilal Sufi Saab, who's a law expert.
Okay.
He knows actually about the international law a lot. Sufi Saab, assalamu alaikum.
Ji, wa alaikum assalam.
So, sir, thank you very much once again, sir, for talking to us. Now, sir, the report says that when it comes to compliance, 1, you have fully complied, 9, you're okay with, 26 partially, and 4, where you have not been able to show any compliance. Now, sir, first of all, the areas of weakness where you think if we could have done, let's say, 20% more, today we won't be thinking about staying in the grey list. Rather, we would have been actually thinking that now we'll be out of this grey list and we'll be clear. Sir.
Well, basically, we can divide this into technical compliance and implementation aspects. Technical compliance means that you need to have relevant laws and rules in position so that you are able to control money laundering, which is linked with predicate offenses, about 40 plus predicate offenses. And you need to have procedures, rules, regulations by your statutory bodies like SECP and State Bank. So in all those areas, Pakistan has done rather well. And that has been recognized, that Pakistan has made a lot of legislation. The provincial governments, even the district governments, have issued relevant notifications and instructions and guidelines. The problem is in the implementation area of the said laws. Implementation means you need to prosecute people, you need to ensure that challans are submitted in the relevant courts, which identify very distinctly that there has been money laundering charge framed under AML, which is Anti-Money Laundering Law. The problem with this is that although Pakistan has been doing extensive prosecution of predicate offenses, whether they are corruption, human trafficking, money laundering, kidnapping, murder, so on and so forth, but every property which is associated with the said predicate offense is the property that we identify as laundered property. Now, the prosecutors and the investigators choose to frame restricted charges of, let's say, of stolen property, but they don't seem to appreciate at times that any property associated with the crime which is listed as a predicate offense, whether it is the money that is going to create that crime or which is arising from that crime, is the laundered property, whether they are the motorcycles used in the situation, whether they are any property, cash, even the kind of guns that you recover from the site are laundered assets. So if the prosecutors are trained enough that along with the prosecution of the main offense, they also frame an additional charge of AML in respect of property which is retrieved during this, then suddenly the scale will go much higher. And that is what has been indicated in the report, and that is what Pakistan needs to do more, is that to train its prosecutors, its judges, and its investigators.
All right. Now, sir, one quick comment. For example, the group of the FATF decides that Pakistan should be retained in the grey list, and they need to seriously work on certain points for that matter. And obviously, what we have read, it tells us that another 6 months would be granted. And then again, there's going to be another meeting. Now, first of all, sir, if 6 months are granted, and let's suppose there is another meeting held after, let's say, 6 months or 8 months or 7 months, how many turns do you can get actually? For example, if you have been able to partially satisfy the group, in the second again you have done the same. So how many chances, how many turns do you get? I mean, how many times can you appear?
Well, let me explain this regime to you a little bit. Financial Action Task Force was an intergovernmental organization established by the G8 states. And when it was established about a decade and a half ago, the idea was it will only make recommendations. This was not a treaty-based obligation. So they came up with about 40 recommendations initially, and then there was some few more added later, in which they said in order to ensure financial discipline and properly at a transnational level, since crimes are also becoming extremely sophisticated at transnational level, therefore we need to have certain safeguards in the financial sector which are legal and administrative. Now that regime was something which is established by the G8. Later on, UN Security Council passed several resolutions in which it created a legal obligation in all the member states that they have to follow it. Now those implementation is now being checked or evaluated by various regional groups. One such group is Asia Pacific Group. Pakistan falls in Asia Pacific Group. So Asia Pacific Group evaluates all countries in Asia, including Pakistan. This is going to be a continuing process for all the states, including Pakistan. So it is not likely to end in near future. In other words, all the countries, including Pakistan, has to stay on top of things continuously as a regular process. It is not a one-time compliance. It is not a compliance if you are even if put into a white list or you're taken out of the grey list, you can't go back into a grey list because it depends on your periodic evaluation, which has now become almost a standing norm. And this will continuously go on.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Now, this is, you wanted a question?
Yes.
But
No,
I think
actually, I want to add here,
yeah.
Before your question is
Periodic evaluation. So this is going to be a continuous process now.
Yeah, but
I wanted to ask Ahmed Bilal Sufi here that Pakistan initiated 71 requests about 31 organizations, and out of these 31, 11 organizations are operating other countries' territories. Pakistan has incriminating evidence about these organizations which were funding allegedly to some element in Pakistan, and which were pointed out by FATF. This is very, very important point.
So we need their compliance also.
Absolutely, and that's why Pakistan is waiting for their response. The organization, like I can tell you that, like JUA, Jamaatul Ahrar, like IICO, like NPO, like Eid bin Muhammad Charity,
BLA,
like,
that has been declared a terrorist organization by USA.
Like HUA and like Emirat Islamia and many other organizations which are not operating in Pakistan. These were operating from other countries. And Pakistan has initiated requests under a central authority laws to take their feedback, to seek their
I got your point.
cooperation.
So that means that, for example, if there is XYZ
And also pointed out by
organization
FATF.
which is based in, let's suppose, UAE, I'm just giving you an example. So if the government of UAE is not showing any compliance for that matter with Pakistan,
There are many permanent
you know,
members.
that's what I'm saying. And in that regard, we should not be held responsible for that. Rather, that country should be told, or it should be made mandatory for those members to work side by side with that country which is facing the problem.
Absolutely, and that's why these.
Or that point, unless and until it is sorted out, should not be added there. I mean, there could be some mechanism,
What
right?
can Pakistan do now? Pakistan can plead this case, this very case, through international lawyers like Ahmed Bilal Sufi, like many others, who can plead Pakistan. They can represent Pakistan. Pakistan should hire their services to plead this very, very important case. And the most important thing is Pakistan should at least empower, should at least to upgrade the standards of Federal Investigation Agency, FPR, SCCP, just like they must meet the global standard to get rid of this grey listing problem. And yes, Pakistan needs to do something very, very solid, but at least should convince FATF that these permanent members should also be asked by FATF.
You should also tell them that these are the areas where we seek help. We need them to be there.
And when it comes to national issues, Pakistan has showed something solid on the ground, arrested hundreds of people now facing cases. As Dr. Manzoor Saab told us about the conviction ratio, I can tell you the conviction ratio is 70% in different courts of a particular courts. Pakistan is perhaps among few countries which has more than 26 special courts to plead anti-terrorism cases and money laundering cases as well. So there is something, yes, but this is the right time to knock FATF and tell them that what exactly Pakistan is doing that, and what exactly the other countries, like permanent countries. I can stress again, because I can tell you on authority that these informations are very much 100% confirmed that Pakistan put before FATF that two organizations from UK and one organization from Germany and 4 organizations from UAE, 2 from USA, and the other one is from Bahrain and Qatar.
Primarily from the Middle East and a couple of European countries as well as USA. Now, Dr. Saab, a few other areas. For example, if you remember, after this very, very, very tragic incident of 16th December in Peshawar Army Public School, sir, if you remember, there was this committee formed and then they came up with this National Action Plan, and it had 20 points. And I would say that most of those 20 points are very much in alignment with what FATF is asking us to do. And then there was a lot of hue and cry since military was involved directly, so we were all thinking that things would be taken care of like this. But again, we did so many shows and we got to know that though the capacity is there, then there is some issue of willingness, and certain departments are not working that well. They should have been doing, you know, a lot of ifs and buts primarily. So what we understood at the end of the day, that if we would have done that earlier, a lot of issues which are now raised in FATF issue would have been died themselves, right, sir?
Yeah.
Number one.
Yeah.
Then we heard about this NACTA again being a part, but there were a lot of fingers raised at NACTA at that time regarding their capacity, their capability, and the kind of people who were sort of posted there. My point is, sir, don't you think that if we would have done this much earlier, we would have had a proactive approach, things would have been a lot different? Why did we let the wave come and hit us so hard, sir?
Faisal, you are 100% right. And when we first got this NACTA and other things in place, we were out of grey list unanimously. So we were first put on grey list in 2008. Then we stayed on grey list in 2012 to 2015. But for the next 3 years, when those things were happening, we had NACTA and all these things. We were those 20 points that you mentioned. And for 3 years, we were out. We were not in the grey list. We were put back on the grey list in 2018. And
We
now
were the victims, basically. And
no, but you're right.
during that particular time
had
period,
had we continued with that, had we done that, fully implemented, then, but there's also a lot of politics, I must say. Sometimes, and India is a very important player there. They're the vice chair of this task force, so they put a lot of pressure. At the time they had maybe better relations with Pakistan, so they were not really pushing that much, so Pakistan was out. And the minute they have problems, for example, there's another international organization, it's called Basit Institute. This is a Swiss-based institute on governance. And they also have this, what you call ranking. And there we are 46, somewhere like that, and that has a link with this GSP+. So we are not that bad there. But here we are with Somalia and North Korea and some of these countries. So there is also international organization, but we are not doing that bad. So, but here, because there's so much politics, and one other thing, when we try our name to be removed, we are always depending on 2 or 3 countries. There are many other neutral countries. There are European countries, many of them, I don't know, 15, 16 European countries are members of this task force. There's New Zealand, there's Australia, there are others. We need also to convince them. All the statistics that Gishkori has just given, if we were able to convince them, this is what has been done. They're neutral countries. I don't think they're politically against
diplomacy
Pakistan.
would have been a
This
good
is it.
tool to fight the case.
Instead of, there are 37 members of this task force. So instead of just all the time depending on Malaysia, China, and Turkey, 2 or 3 countries, we should go and convince some other members so that we should have far more. Maybe we should convince 10 or 15, maybe 5, 7 can come to our. But we should do it far more than depending on 2 or 3 members.
But anyways, I think the coming week is pretty interesting.
Faisal,
Last closing remarks from you, Mr.
Let me confess that there is not at all a rosy picture that 4 important points pointed out by FATF. We badly failed to implement all these 4 points were a part of this National Action Plan.
That's what I'm saying.
It's true.
Yes.
And the most important thing, Pakistan is going to revise this National Action Plan, and these 4 points were not touched because all of them were very sensitive.
Because of, so you know why? Since we have brought in religion into our politics, and religion for some reason we have made it very controversial, I would say. And the problem is that whenever you talk about it, and even no matter how much educated you are about the religion, but the authority or the custodian is the mullah or the Maulvi, right, sir? And they have gained this power, and they have become the superhuman beings, untouchables basically. And anything you say or utter, even that makes a lot of logic and is according to pure Islam, will not be accepted. That's the problem, unfortunately. The reason is again that we have let them grow, we have let them become the monsters. And now you face the music, sir. The point is now under the umbrella of FATF, we should go after and do this if there was any hurdle. Now this is how you move forward. You have to do that for your internal sake and for the external evaluation as well. Anyway, sir, thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you, Gishkori Saab. And that's all we have for this. I'll see you again. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.